The country continues to deal with the aftermath of the Vanderbijlpark scholar transport crash that claimed the life of 14 learners. The 22-year-old driver has been charged with 14 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder and has abandoned his bail application. Authorities have since confirmed that the driver did not have a valid professional driving permit at the time of the crash. In response, law enforcement agencies have launched scholar transport operations across the province and the country, impounding dozens of vehicles found to be unroadworthy or operating illegally. Joining us now is Gauteng MEC for Transport and Roads, Kedibone Diale-Tlabela, to discuss scholar transport safety and the ongoing enforcement operations. MEC, good afternoon. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Let's start with the operations that ensued after the crash this week. What has it achieved thus far?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to SABC viewers. The campaign did not start after the accident. The campaign is part of our road safety campaign that we launched with the minister last December as part of the festive season road safety campaign, which then this year we set to, I think if you check our communication on scholar transport as Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng, our emphasis in this term of the year is on scholar transport. So we had already started. It's unfortunate that the accident happened. We started on the 12th of January. We, on a weekly basis, we monitor, and this we do with our municipalities. There's a road safety platform of the province and all law enforcement agencies in our province, including municipal ones. So the campaign had long started, and we continue to monitor it as part of our road safety campaign in the country.
Yeah, this seems quite reactive. That is to say, it is about holding accountable those who don't comply to enforce compliance rather than educating those who operate in the space about compliance. Has the provincial government considered perhaps having a town hall, an imbizo of sorts, with scholar transport operators all across the province, both public and private, to have a conversation about what compliance looks like?
It's unfortunate that you have not been following us, and I think in their mouths, those who are operating, they will tell you that we've been running workshops. This we started last year when we saw that there's a huge gap on understanding public transport operation and the legislative framework governing that by the scholar transporters themselves. Remember, a lot of who are in this is as a result of retirement or not having something to do. And in most cases, it will be, I've just retired, I was a nurse or a teacher or something else. I might as well buy a vehicle and provide scholar transport. In many cases, especially with women scholar transporters, it's because of passion for kids and many other things that are there. But we have seen a huge number of increase of people then who wake up and just do it, and they do not care what kind of vehicles they use. They also do not know that they should be compliant in terms of applying to operate. And there has been a huge gap, and this I must say that I think, and we said to Department of Education, we need to, on their side, assist in ensuring that people understand that for you to operate a scholar transport, the school must give you permission and therefore have a contract with you. And the most other important contract is the contract with parents. These two contracts must always be in the vehicle. Another important certificate to have is a permit from Department of Roads and Transport. So a lot of them were not registered, and we had relied on associations to mobilize, to help us coordinate, create awareness. So what we have been doing as Roads and Transport in the past year was to create awareness, workshop them on the do's and don'ts, and we had communicated with them that in January we're focusing on scholar transport, and you need to make sure that you are compliant, your vehicles are compliant. And we had communicated on that. If you go to our social media pages, you'll see that. we've been communicating on the campaign and what is it that we are looking for when we run the campaign. We are working closely with law enforcement agencies on that.
Can I just quickly ask, what does the compliance actually look like? Let's get into a bit of the details around that. So imagine I want to wake up tomorrow and become a Scholar Transport operator. Do I have to apply to your department for a specific permit? How long does it take to get that permit? Does it cost me any money to apply for that permit? In addition to that, what other form of permitting do I need to be a successful operator right now? I'm asking about the existing framework. And then perhaps tell us what you would like to add to that framework to make it more robust.
So Section 40, subsection 2 of the Act says you must have a contract with the school and get accredited by Department of Education before you operate. You also must have a contract with the parents of the children or a child that you'll be transporting. And then you come to Department of Transport to apply for a permit to operate as a public transport operator, which is Section 49 of the National Road Traffic Act. That then will give you responsibility as a public transport operator that your vehicle must be compliant, your driver must have all the licenses, and in this case, because you are transporting people, you need a PDP. So your driver or yourself as an operator, if you are driving that vehicle, you must have a PDP, you must have a driver's license, you must make sure that your vehicle is compliant and make sure that you don't put or expose your passengers to any in danger, and you offload and load them in designated areas. That's what the Act is, and that's what we are about. Then law enforcement will look into all those requirements, whether you have them. But us understanding that there has been a gap on knowledge, what is this about? And that's why you have seen us, and we have also included them as part of Public Transport Operators Forum in our province. There has been that lull and a gap. And in the last previous year, we were working on workshopping them and ensuring that they understand. And there has been a gap also on application for permits. So a lot of them, like the 2 days in Indonesia, we got exposed that, yes, they think a permit is when you go to an association in your locality to say, I want to provide scholar transport. And then associations have affiliation fees. So Runa, we are not part of that. What we are part of, you come to us as an individual, not as a group, unless you are a consortium or a cooperative to say we are a cooperative to, then we give permits to individuals. So it's between you and Department of Transport. You come to us, you apply, we tell you what to submit, and you pay 600 rands. And then after paying that 600 rands, there's a receipt. So the permit is, then there's a process to process your permit for you to get a permit, because you must get concurrence with the municipalities. There's processes to vet you. You must submit
how long does all of that take?
certificates. Then you 90 days to get a permit. But the MEC then concur that because you have applied and submitted all the necessary documentation, and because of pressures, the MEC then concur and give you a letter to operate. And that receipt should always be there, because law enforcement needs to know whether Department of Roads and Transport has concurred that you can be
on the
an
strength
operator, so that you are not
of the
disturbed by
receipt,
any.
on the strength of the receipt of the 600 rand that you've paid, you're able to operate in the interim of those 90 days pending your permit. What happens when your permit then application gets rejected?
It never gets rejected, because we make sure that so we take you through, this is what you need. So when you submit your tax, say for instance, tax certificate, before you leave, because we work closely together, there's integrated systems now, we are able to verify whether what you have submitted is authentic. And that's where the MEC will then concur whether you go and operate with using the receipt, or not while waiting for
Sure.
your permit certificate. So I should concur, and before I concur, we make sure that everything that you submitted will not stop you from getting a permit itself within the 90 days.
Let's talk about the vehicle inspections conducted in Lenasia this past week. A lot of scholar transport operators and taxi operators weren't particularly happy with that. You had impounded vehicles that seemingly were not roadworthy. Talk us through the details of that and what response your office gave to the associations and operators that aren't happy with the undertaking this week.
So law enforcers enforce the law, and they don't negotiate it. It's not me that impounds the vehicles. They are trained on what to look for when they declare a vehicle unroadworthy. They know that what is it that they're looking for. Secondly, on permits, you need to show this that I spoke to. And they are aware because they form part of that platform where we sit with operators themselves. They are aware that those who have a receipt that there is a concurrence with the Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng, they will never impound them because they know the conditions of them operating. There's concurrence for them to operate. So the people that were
But MEC, I can
impounded,
imagine a situation
a lot
where
of them have never, some don't even know where to apply. We had to even create awareness. But there's a group that will know, that sits in our workshops, that have been registered on digitalization system that we are now using. So there's differences. There's those that says I've been operating for 30 years and I pay 15,000 to an association on an annual basis. That's not a permit. A permit is you pay 600 rand, and that permit certificate is 2 years. You renew it after every 2 years. So we don't take 15,000. So they rely on association to come and apply for them, and a lot of them are not. As I talk to you, I have 11,500 according to submitted as membership of the associations. And when you compare that with the number of those who applied, who came as individuals to apply, it's far, far less than that. So it means those who have done their registration, of course, yes, with the associations, they still need to come to Department of Roads and Transport. In Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Germiston, Ekurhuleni, we have offices in the Western. It's unfortunate for the Kedibone one. We are correcting it. We are building a toll lab there because they have never had a toll lab for many, many years. And that's why then they come to 45 commissioner to be assisted. So it's just a challenge of understanding the legislative framework that governs that business that you want to
okay,
enter into.
what happened?
And that's why we are putting emphasis also to Department of Education, to talk to SGBs, to talk to principals, that can we take responsibility, especially when it comes to private public transporters, because this is the sector that has been neglected and left to operate on its own. With the public transport, public scholar transporters, we do not have challenges like the ones we have. And we also want to call upon parents to also help us. So as you enter into that contract with your service provider, please make sure that the vehicle is roadworthy. The driver, you know who is the driver, and you make sure that your kids, you don't put your kids in danger.
Yeah, just very quickly, what is the penalty for non-compliance? Very specifically, the non-compliance I'm asking about is private scholar transport operators who are not registered with the department and don't have an operating permit or haven't even made an attempt to register, but happen to be operating a vehicle that is roadworthy.
The vehicle gets to be impounded because you are operating to get a reward, and according to legislation, you should have a permit to do that. So it gets impounded, and I think the impoundment fees vary, but if it's a provincial one, it's 5,000. They vary on the basis of the impound facility that you go to. If it's a national one, a provincial one, and a regional one. So they vary on who is there at that moment. So if it's the city, it will have a different price. That's what I got to understand, if it's the province, it will have a different price, and same. So the price is not standard based on and the facilities as well as the time spent. I think if you don't come after a day or two, then it starts rating for storage and many other things that is related to that. That's a responsibility of Department of Community Safety in the province and Department of the Community Safety in your JMPD, TMPDs, Ekurhuleni, those
Yeah.
law enforcement agencies that we have. So that's a space that we don't regulate as transport. It's regulated by Department of Community Safety. So on scholar transport, who is responsible? Department of Education, Department of Transport, to ensure that those who operate have proper licensing. So those have a responsibility to come to us to apply for proper licensing. And then community safety, what do? They then do oversee the law and ensure that they enforce the law.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there.
So
MEC Kedibone. Yeah.
it's three departments as well as our municipalities.
Yeah. MEC
So we're
Kedibone.
calling
Yeah.
upon parents really to take responsibility on this. We have a hotline, 0861 400 800. Anything scholar transport, call this hotline. If you see a unroadworthy vehicle on the streets, just take a picture of the registration number, the car model, and give us the location
Yeah.
of where is that car.
MEC, we're going to have to. Yeah.
And I think we'll continue engaging
Yeah.
with society on this. I think we've seen that there's a high need. People do not understand how should they operate.
MEC, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for coming on. Really do appreciate it. That's the MEC for Transport in Gauteng, Kedibone, Diale-Tlabela. I'm going to repeat that number to you. It's 0861 400 800. That's the hotline number for the provincial government that you can call should you wish to report a non-compliant scholar transport operator. We're going to take a break. We'll continue on the other side of this.